we're now live, Chair.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. I am Councillor Haug, and I'm the chair of this committee. And welcome everybody to tonight's South Area Committee meeting on 27th of November 2023 at 7 p.m. First item here, welcome to Imi Blackburn Horgan, the newly elected City Councillor for Queen Edith's Ward. Yeah, it's a bit of a shame that it's actually the last South Area Committee meeting for a while. But anyway, you've been here already several times in the past, already an active member of the community. So welcome as a councillor. I would also like to take this opportunity to thank previous Councillor Sam Davies for several years of productive work on this committee. She might actually be tweeting about us right now. Who knows? So be careful with what you are saying. And I already mentioned it, so I would like to point out that this will be the last South Area Committee, at least for the foreseeable future. So following an audit, the council has decided, probably mostly because of low attendance, that they are looking into other options to engage with residents. So we have to wait for the outcome of this discussion. So unfortunately, at least in this form, we are getting together for the last time now for the foreseeable future. So that also means the next committee meetings that were still announced at some point have now been cancelled. So that's already on the council website. Now, I think we have received one apology from Councillor Dryden. I think a few other councillors will still come in a few minutes. And also thank you to the... Yeah.
Before you go on from that one, it's obviously very sad these are starting, but just before we move on to that, I just wanted to extend my thanks for you for chairing these meetings all over the years. I think they've been very successful, and really thank you to James and Democratic Services for organising it all. I just want to point out just how much they have been appreciated to everyone and say thank you for all of that.
Well, yeah, thank you very much. I thought we might have a few more words at the end of the meeting as well, but thank you very much. I think you're absolutely right. It's also interesting to say that we have the first ever chair of an area or South Area Committee meeting here at the virtual table at the moment. So Philippa, that was you or not? So the beginning and the end. Yes.
I'm Alpha. You can be Omega.
Yes. Let's shed a few tears later when the cameras are off. And in particular, I would like to thank the officers who are permanently here at the table. That's Committee Manager James Goddard and Meeting Producer Boris Herzog. If anyone has problems hearing me or has any other problems, then just use the chat or make yourself known somehow. Usual housekeeping, you'll find copies of the agenda online. Please keep yourselves muted, especially when you're doing noisy things like Karen is demonstrating right now.
Sorry, I'm...
It's okay. No, it was a good demonstration of what to avoid the rest of the meeting. If you want to ask a question, then lift your hand, your virtual hand, or type something in the chat. Also, the meeting is recorded, so what you are saying during the meeting will be available to the public later. And it's broadcast live via the council's website. So now for the next items, where appropriate, I will call on the officers to introduce an item. So I'm here to decide who can speak and who can't. So please let's stick to that for the next hour or so. And that means that we can now move to agenda item 2, unless there are any comments or questions at this point. Are there any declarations of interest? I doubt it, yeah. Then agenda item 3, the notes of the previous meeting from the 4th of September 2023. As you all know by now, we can't really make any decisions, so that's why they're not called minutes, just notes. So any comments on that? Silence will be taken as agreement. 3, 2, 1. Okay, approved. And now agenda item 4, matters and actions arising from the minutes. There were a few action points. I don't know what the sequence was. I think one was for Councillor Young and one was for Councillor Beckett. I just quickly need to check the document. So there was one action point for Councillor Young about the Cambridge Biomedical Campus, why no tickets were issued for running on Edinburgh's Road. Has there been an update on that?
Yes, I met with the CBC and they were incredibly helpful. They went away and did a very detailed report just outlining who's responsible for what and what's happened. Basically, the issues have been a sort of a processing of information, and that's now automated since September 2022. The other issue has been roadworks, and therefore the algorithm they weren't sure whether the algorithm was working that would cope with the idea that there were roadworks within the site. And for those reasons, the queries were raised as to whether it was working properly, but they've now sort of laid out who does what. It's all been clarified. They are it's all working properly. They've had an independent audit of the system. It conforms with the requirements of the TRO, and the amount of prosecutions are published by the police. So all seems in order. The report has been provided to the residents' associations, and I think they've sort of explained what's happening and what they've done, and it all looks good. So that is sort of dealt with. They are looking at a mechanism for just gathering further information about who does use the site, but that's sort of a more longer term thing, and we'll give them data as to how and who is using the site in the way that they use them. Mm-hmm. So that will sort of inform things like more long-term things like designing the site for avoiding things like speeding, and prioritizing non-car traffic within the site. And so that's a sort of more long-term view as to what they need to be doing. But yeah.
Well, thank you very much. That sounds like good news. And Councillor Slatter has a question.
Yes, I was wondering if I can ask Councillor Young. You mentioned that report has been sent to residents' associations. I don't know whether the CBC told you which residents' associations. I mean, we have the local Trumpington Residents Association meeting day after tomorrow, and it would be good to know if they've been given it.
Yes, they have.
Yes,
it's my understanding.
That they may well be reporting back on it. Thank you, but it does sound as if it's a useful document to know exists, and thank you for pursuing that.
Yeah, and I would say, the team there are very keen to engage with local residents around and about the Adam Brooks and CBC site, and they were just totally helpful and great to deal with.
Okay, thank you. Are there any further questions or comments on this topic? If not, then I would like to ask Councillor Beckett to update us on speed limits around the city.
Thank you very much, Olaf. Yes, so it's one of the reasons why it's sad that this is the last area committee meeting, because unfortunately I have spoken to officers about this and they are very keen to come along and talk to the area committee about the proposals of this. They are still finalising a lot of the information with it though, and getting lots of feedback from other third parties, and they wanted to do that before coming to the meeting to make sure that the proposal was in as crystal clear form as they could. Obviously still open to changes depending on residents' feedback, but they'd wanted to make sure it was in a really good form. Unfortunately, they haven't got that done in time, and this is the last area committee meeting, which is slightly sad, but maybe we can find another forum where they'll be able to come and present it at least to councillors or other interested parties before it goes. So we'll keep it, figure out if there is another way to do it. It might be the coming Cambridge Joint Area Committees, TJACs, might be a way to be able to do that instead. But they were definitely very keen on coming and sharing it with a wider audience. So we'll have to find a way of doing that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any more comments or questions on any of these items? Well, if not, then we can move on to agenda item number 5, and that's the open forum. And we have received a few questions. I mean, James, would you like me to read questions? Although you might actually have the latest, and I don't know, you sent me an update, and I'm not sure if I have the very latest, but I can certainly read the questions I have.
You have the complete list, Chair, but it's up to you. I mean, I can share it on screen and read it if you would like.
I mean, that would be great. I'm just checking, is actually, are any of the questioners actually in the audience? Doesn't look like it, at least. I mean, apart from Emmy, of course.
Believe not. Apart from Councillor. Yes, our new Councillor.
Yes. Let's start with Mr. Arnold's question maybe.
I shall just share my screen, Chair, because there's a chart.
That's great, thank you.
Public question from Mr. Arnold. Please, could you advise what is being done to control the speed of cars, trucks, buses along Addenbrooke's Road from Dame Mary Archer Way around Hobson's Avenue in both directions? Speed limit is 30 miles an hour, yet drivers are routinely travelling at speeds well in excess of this. He undertook a survey 2021 and sent some figures in. I have a response as well, Chair. Would you like me to go on to that?
Yes, I've seen that. I think it's
So a response from Mr. Bergin, the Road Safety Manager at Cambridgeshire County Council. Speeding is an emotive issue for many residents. Working together to achieve safer roads and road use under the Vision Zero banner, we work closely together with police to act in roads where there is clear need for intervention, be that engineering enforcement. Action is based on collision data and injury outcome to best direct the limited resources available. Since 2018, there have been 2 injury collisions on section of road, as outlined. 2021 taxi versus cyclist and 2022 taxi versus cyclist at junction. On both occasions, this is an observation junction restart error on the driver's part. Another collision report suggests speed was a contributing factor. Based on this evidence, the section of road does not require further attention at the time.
Okay, thank you. Sounds like we have to wait for more accidents before something's done. I don't know, is there anyone here on the in the audience who would like to comment on that from the County Council, for example? Not looking at anyone in particular.
Well, it's an ongoing problem. Financing any sort of warning signs or monitoring movement. What are they? MAVs, movement of activated vehicle signs. It's something that locals would very much like to have. It is quite scary, some of the near misses. We don't know whether the recent demolition of the traffic light controls on Shelford Road, Addenbrooke's Road, was speed related, but there are certainly there's a lot of bad behaviour, and so far we have got away with it. I think you're right. We're actually going to need injuries rather than collisions, because we do get collisions. Just to flag up, as Councillor Beckett knows, and as Councillor Huck as well, we are wanting to discuss bringing all of Addenbrooke's Road down to 30 miles an hour, because there is a section of 40 miles an hour just when people are coming out of the traffic lights. That is clearly nonsense. We'll do what we can and just carry on. It's a bit unsatisfactory, and I know Jeff Arnold will find it unsatisfactory. Sorry about that.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Beckett.
Thank you for that, and thank you, Councillor Slatter. So, I mean, I think the first thing to say is that obviously speeds across the county are concerning to all of us, and one of our joint administration priorities was to try and help reduce speeds, help roll out more 20-mile-an-hour zones, and generally, reduce the impact that traffic and cars do have on safety on a lot of. We are currently looking at how what Councillor Slatter talks about there, MVAS, flashing light sign speed limit displays happen around the city, and we might have a new programme for that coming forward. So it might be that we could get one of those in this area to try and help in the short term. Unfortunately, The way that those work best is by moving them around rather than keeping them in one spot. So it's not that you put one up there permanently, but that you'd kind of target it and put it there occasionally to help try and reduce speeds down. It's obviously, as we were talking earlier on about speed reduction across the city, it's an area that would be looked at as part of that. The police obviously, unfortunately, aren't able to enforce as much as we would like, and that's a sad truth across the entire city. And we would like them to do more. I have been talking to the police to see what they can do to do more, but I know it is a challenge for them given all the constraints that they have going on as well at the moment. Finally, obviously, we are open at the moment for local highways improvement bids. So I don't know if there is anything that could be done via a local highways improvement bid. By, I guess, Councillor Slatter, it's your area as to whether there is anything that could be done there. I don't know, but we could look into that one as well as time goes on to do things. And the final slight thing is I unfortunately haven't seen that data that's being collected. The one thing to be aware of then in some of these ones is that obviously that's a area I believe used by emergency service vehicles. So some of those speeds might well be, you know, ambulances on blue light runs. So just be slightly aware. I know other places across the county we've had people collecting data and showing that we have vehicles going, you know, through a 30 at 60 miles an hour, and sometimes that's police cars or ambulances that are on blue light runs and actually doing so safely. So do be slightly aware of that one given the area, but we obviously do need to look at speed reduction as much as we possibly can. Thanks.
Yeah, good point. Any further comments on this issue? Because in that case, we can move on to the second question, and I think this is Councillor Blackburn-Horgan's question on noisy mopeds. And I think, Councillor Blackburn-Horgan, would you like to ask a question?
Sure. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, very well. Thank you.
Awesome. So noisy and dangerous mopeds and motorbikes are blighting the lives of Queen Edith residents, especially the elderly, less mobile and families with children. How can we draw on lessons learned from the successes of police and multi-agency work that reduce speed in mopeds and motorbikes on Greenlands and Red Cross Lane?
Thank you very much. And I think we have received a response to that. James, can you maybe put it on the screen? Or I think I have it somewhere here.
I can show my screen share. Thank you. Yes.
That would be great.
There we go. A response came back from Sarah Steggles and the community safety team who had liaised with Sergeant Sutcliffe, who said Greenlands and Red Cross Lane residents were specific about when and where this was happening, which then allows for directed patrols, and they kept reporting incidents, which highlights the issues. It is therefore important that dangerous driving of any vehicle is reported to the police on 101 or online with license plate details if possible, so the police can identify when and where this is happening and target resources appropriately. If there are identified offenders in Queen Edith, then police can try and target them and pay them a visit and do increased patrols.
Okay, thank you very much. I think that's probably, it should be written on every councillor's T-shirt, you know, keep reporting. I think that's probably the most used phrase on the doorstep. But yes, Councillor Slatter.
Yeah, I'm rather embarrassed by the different tone of these two responses we've had from our officers, because Sarah Steggles is clearly encouraging residents to gather the facts, and we seem to be wanting to minimise the facts that were collected by Mr. Arnold. I think we need to move into this. We need to deal with this better. I have a meeting with David Allett, who is the new acting director of Highways. What's the proper title, Alex? We have a meeting tomorrow online for a variety of things that worry us in Trumpington, and we mustn't lose sight of this. This might be the last meeting of this committee, but that response from Sarah Steggles is really helpful, because people got various ways of collecting that information now on their phones and things about speed. So let's try and follow them up. As you say, we'll have to get that T-shirt over.
Or maybe a hat. Councillor Beckett.
Indeed, we do, and Philip or I will pick that up around the response previously. We do need to be doing what we can for our residents. Obviously, the issue of noisy mopeds, I think, has been blighting communities across the entire city. I know I've heard similar from residents in Romsey, residents up, Petersfield, all around the entire city. And I believe there was talk, maybe one of the city councillors will know more about this, that they were trying to get a request in the budget for a noise camera. Does anyone know if that's correct? I'm sure I saw that the city council, I think it was one of the Lib Dems was trying to get money for a noise camera to put in around, but I think it got rejected. But I don't know if anyone has any more information on that one.
Well, we keep trying, but yes, that's true. I mean, last time round we asked for it and it was rejected. Yes. So and we are currently in the budget proposals have recently appeared, so the discussion is ongoing. Let's put it that way.
Okay, fingers crossed then. I believe that noise is obviously a city council rather than a county council, even though it's on the roads, which makes it slightly complicated. But maybe it's another thing that we could raise at one of the joint area committees when they start up, because it's a nice cross-party thing of roads and noise and everything together. And it is a problem that blights so many of our residents, noisy motorbikes and mopeds.
Yeah, I mean, to the level that people want to sell their houses. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Councillor Slatter, is that the same hand? It looked like you wanted to talk, but.
Sorry, no, I was just making supporting facial expressions. Sorry about that. Left my hand up.
Okay, I don't see any further hands up, so maybe we can then move on to the question by Mr. Carpen. I think that's something for our Queen Edith's councillors.
Did you want to read that, Chair, or should I? Sorry, I just lost track.
Can. Wait a second. Yeah, exactly. It doesn't need any graphics there. So Anthony Carpen asks, please, could you ask councillors and officers to provide details on when the Nightingale Pavilion will be open and how people can book the venue? I've seen a couple of events listed for the new building, but I can't find any details on how to book it. Can anyone help, Mr. Carpen? Okay, Councillor Young.
I have been asking this question of officers rather repeatedly, and I still do not have an answer. I'm really sorry, Anthony, but I don't know. I also am going to an event there, but have no details of how to book or anything. So I'm really sorry, and I will keep chasing and let you know.
Maybe we can now use the full powers of the South Area Committee to.
Exactly. Yes. Thank you very much for asking the question. Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. It doesn't seem there's an easy answer here, so we can then move on to the last question. I can certainly have a look. Oh, wait a second. Here we go. So Carol Leonard, Executive Committee member of Cambridgeshire Neighbourhood Watch, sent a comment following up on the minutes of our last meeting from September the 4th. And she says, I was unable to view these minutes on the meeting on the day, but she noticed that there is a mention of the Neighbourhood Watch scheme that has been invited to cover Nightingale Recreation Area. I have looked at the area concerned, as I'm the area coordinator who supports schemes and creates new ones. There are also some schemes in the area which I think could be involved as well, and all work together if need be. There may also be an opportunity for Nightingale Avenue to have a scheme as well, which I can look into and try to promote across the city. Yeah, she's just asking me to feed this back to the committee. And if anyone has any questions, then you can contact Carol Leonard about this. And if you, or either contact me or James for contact details. Would anyone like to comment on that right now? Yeah, Councillor Slatter.
I would just add that I had a long discussion with Carol Leonard because our officer had set up a community safety community event at half term, and I revised my opinion of the idea of Neighbourhood Watch because I think it has got a bit of a bad press in the past, but there is no doubt that it can be helpful. I know that Councillor sorry, I'm just going to call you Imi. I've forgotten your surname, I'm afraid, Councillor. that, you know, she's obviously have got practical experience that I think it is something that we could indeed help to promote amongst our residents. It does depend on residents taking it on themselves, so obviously, but let's hope it can work for Nightingale.
Brilliant. In that case, I think that's the end of the open forum. And does anyone need a break? I mean, I'm not planning to have a break. I think we can do everything in one session, but just let me know if anyone needs a break. But if not, then we can move on to agenda item 6, and that's the environmental report. And I think it's going to be presented by Wendy Johnston, the Community Engagement and Enforcement Manager. Hi, Wendy, good to see you.
Thank you, Chair. So I'll just give a really brief summary of the report, and then I'm happy to take any questions or comments that there are. So this report covers the period of June until November of this year for the South Area Wards. It's a partial data capture for November because of the committee publishing deadlines. So just to highlight some of the positive work that we've done in the past 6 months, we've had a lot of corporate groups working with our teams from Streets and Open Spaces. We've had quite a few working within the Cherry Hinton ward. In particular, they've done lots of work at Cherry Hinton Hall and also at Cherry Hinton Recreation Ground, undertaking some of the works that would have otherwise not been done as regularly as we would have liked to see, such as like bench renovations. We have, in Cherry Hinton itself, we have actually had some fly tipping that's been on the increase, been a little bit of a problem for the teams, which is located on Chelwood Road next to the clothing banks just off of the High Street. We're having sort of repeat fly tipping dumped by people who are taking waste that shouldn't be there left. So that's a hotspot area that our officers are monitoring at the moment. Within Queen Edith itself, we have had some problem fly tipping at the Wolston Way area. We've not been able to identify who's been responsible for that. We are continuing to investigate that, and in fact our team have increased their patrols and done some educational work in the area to try and see if we can find out the culprits of that behaviour. In Trumpington, we have taken part in some of the work with what was the Chips team in the summertime when they had their event at Trumpington Pavilion. We bring along our designer reusable bag that the children can do. It's always very popular, and we've also had a really positive experience working with Trumpington Park at school, where we had a corporate group of volunteers that actually came in and helped to refurbish their pond area to enhance the biodiversity, so that the children can actually improve access to what they can learn from on the site of the school ground. Hotspot areas within Trumpington continue to be the same as in previous periods, so we continue to have problems at Waitrose Recycling Centre, with people continuing to go to the site despite the fact that they can't take cardboard and other household waste, leaving it there. Glebe Farm Drive continues to be a problem, and also parts of Anstey Way as well. I think for the period as well, we have had no needles reported across all 4 wards, which is positive to see. And the fly tipping figures have also decreased slightly across the board compared to the same period in the previous year. That's a really brief summary of the report, Chair. I'm more than happy to take any questions or comments. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I can see hands have gone up already, and it's Councillor Levine first, and then Councillor Fletter.
Yeah, thank you, Olaf. Yes, talking about what looks like a recycling centre at Trumpington Waitrose. It was, of course, I think everyone here will remember that there used to be a large orange skip, or 2 sometimes, where residents, including myself, could put their cardboard, and it was a tremendous facility. It was extremely useful. That whole area looks like a recycling area. There is some recycling that happens already. There's some clothes recycling and shoes, I believe. But the orange skip just disappeared, and of course people turned up for a month or 2, found there was no skip, thought, well, maybe it's just away, and put their cardboard there, you know, quite naturally, really. I did my very best to find out who was responsible for the skip. Was it away temporarily, or was that now gone? And it all ran into the sand, really. As far as I could make out, there was one skip available and it was elsewhere, which sounds like a bit of a tall story to me. I don't know, Wendy, if you know anything about that orange skip and could it be replaced? It's a natural place to have a huge skip for recycling cardboard, basically. It's very strange that there isn't one there. So if there's anything that you or any of the councillors here can do, I know that the Trumpington residents would be very grateful. So thank you in advance. Thanks, Ella.
Would you like to respond straight away?
Yes, I do know something a little bit about this one. I can certainly answer. So the skip itself belonged to the Greater Cambridge Shared Waste team. It was put there for whatever reason they determined it was appropriate. They had to really remove it, I believe, for operational reasons. They needed to skip for events such as the community cleanup days and other work that they do for waste disposal across, obviously, what is Cambridge City and South Cambs wards. However, I do know that their officers put up lots and lots of signs at the site to say that the skip had been removed. The signs were torn down on a daily basis, where officers were having to go out repeatedly to fix them up with all sorts of glue to try and get them to stay in place. And it just got really bad that the signage was up saying that the cardboard skips had been removed. I don't know whether there was an operational decision to make that as a short or a long-term decision, but we do have new recycling signage that is, I don't know if you've seen the yellow and the kind of black signs we've got at some of our sites across the city, recycling signs. We have got new signage that is going up at the site. I'm not aware of myself of any plans for the skips to go back, but leaving cardboard there simply because the skip wasn't there isn't acceptable and is classed as fly tipping. It is wrong to do that, because if the clothing banks are full and people leave clothing outside the clothing banks, you can imagine it's the same type of principle. So the waste we're getting dumped isn't just cardboard, it is people bringing along everything that goes in the cardboard. They're not sorting it out. It's general household waste as well. So people are starting to use it again as a dumping ground. But I mean, I can take the message back to the recycling officers and the team at the shared waste who deal with the skips, to see if they have any sort of more long-term plans that they can communicate with the Trumpington councillors to kind of explain to you what's going on and what they might be looking at for the site, if that's helpful.
Yeah. You want to respond to
Could
that,
I just
David?
come back, Chair, on that just very briefly. I mean, that's a bit of a tough message, really, because it's a natural recycling centre. It's in everyone's interest to have a skip. I don't know how much they cost. I bet they're not cheap. I actually think that Waitrose would like there to be a skip there. I mean, it brings in more customers to come around, dump their cardboard and go shopping. I don't know whether they could contribute. I don't know whether you've asked. It's just a thought. Putting up a sign saying there's no skip here anymore is a very, very poor alternative to having a skip, basically. That's it.
I mean, if I can just jump in, I mean, I had a few, I mean, several requests about exactly that thing. It was also on social media for a moment, and I don't remember where I got this from, but I thought it was in one email where they said the skip was there for a while in the early days of Trumpington Meadows, the Trumpington Meadows development, for people who get lots of stuff delivered and have lots of cardboard boxes. But I think that's still the case, and lots of people move into and out of Trumpington Meadows. So it obviously creates a problem. So if we could make an effort, to get a skip or something, yeah, just another way for people to recycle their cardboard. And I think next to Waitrose is a great spot. People go there anyway, and they take their cardboard with them. And it's just, and maybe telling people that there is no skip there just encourages them to think, oh, well, there used to be a skip here, so maybe that's a good place to put my cardboard. Anyway, okay, that's just my comment. Councillor Slater.
Yeah, I had two questions for Wendy, but I would just comment on that. I mean, Waitrose did have a fully functioning recycling centre. They were one of the first, and I would accept their decision that they really don't want any more. And I think they're going to find something much more useful to do with that space, and it could be electric charging point or something else, because I think that is fair enough. They have suffered a lot from the fly tipping, and I don't know that it's particularly appropriate that a supermarket should deal with that issue. I'm not defending the fly tippers, and it would be lovely to have somewhere you could take cardboard, because people are getting more and more of that, and it is quite unwieldy. It's not something you can put easily on a bike to take to somewhere else, so, and it doesn't fit in the bins, etc. I like it for my allotment, but apart from that, two questions, Wendy. One, these reports we get from you are brilliant. Now, it might be that the demise of the South Area Committee you see as you know, sigh of relief. You don't have to do all the work that's involved in drawing them up, you know, getting the stories together, etc. If these reports are going to be going to a different committee on the City Council, I personally would really appreciate being copied in on them, because I think they can be quite inspiring for people, and we can refer to them or even take bits out of them to show people what can be done with the community cleanup and the contacts that can happen, and the other, you know, the improvements that other people have done. You know, it would be a pity to lose that good publicity and those encouraging stories, shall we say. So I don't know what the plans are, and you don't need to answer the question, but I would very much appreciate getting them still. The one that, you know, the best bits are coming for the South Area, in that they are so personal, you know, to us. Thank you. And there was an item on page 6, you mentioned it yourself, the bench renovation, which reminded me of an issue we have locally. And it would be good to know how I should have approached this if I hadn't this last chance to talk to you, Wendy. And that is the memorial bench to Councillor Hazel Eagle, who died in service, really, actually, while she was, you know, walking across to do some casework. And there was a cross-party contributions from councillors at the time to put a bench on Anstey Way. It's a now very sad affair. It is just next to some recycling bins, and people do put bags of stuff there, but apart from anything else, it's not somewhere that anybody would want to sit. The bench itself is deteriorating. The plaque, well, I must admit I haven't been polishing it with Brasso all this time, but it's now that once it's being created by the City Council, the question would be, is it still your responsibility to look after it? And in this case, could we relocate it? You know, clean it up and relocate it? Because I don't know whether anybody else on this call remembers Hazel Eagle, but her service to the community was considerable. And as I say, it was an all-party contribution from the public and from councillors to put something in her memory. And I don't think it would be respectful to just let it fall apart any further. Do you know the one I mean? Well, I could send you a photo outside this, Wendy, if you don't mind being my target, and then you can pass it on to whoever. And we can maybe do something locally to find out where people think it could go if it could be renovated. But people have just suggested putting it the other side of the hedge, so it's on what can be called Anstey Green by the shops there. But it would be, you know, we could always ask if there were any residents with strong views about it, or people who used to live in the same area as her. But I've just to alert us to that one, if I can get that on the agenda, this last gasp of the South Area. Thank you.
Can I come back on that, Chair?
Yes,
okay,
of course,
thank you. So in terms of the reports, I don't currently know what the plans are for the environmental reports. They're not going to a different committee at the current time. So I think it's a matter of sort of seeing what happens with the area committees as to whether these feature going forwards. But any of the information that is in the reports can be requested from me or from the relevant contact. More than happy to provide that if there's particular excerpts that are sort of useful. that can come through. It's not a problem. In terms of the bench renovation, I would need to speak to the assets team that manage the assets themselves. I'm not quite sure about memorial benches once they are, like you say, created, whose responsibility it is to upkeep. If it, yeah, and then sort of, like we say, we can do some work. If you want to send me some information about that, I'm more than happy to take that offline and speak to the relevant people. I know who I need to speak to, and I can come back to you with a bit more detailed information outside of the committee.
It looks bad, and I hadn't noticed how bad it looks. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to second Councillor Slatter's request for a new bench or a relocation of the bench. I think if you're sitting on that bench, if you're lucky, you look at a nice car right in front of you. If you're not so lucky, it might be not such a nice car, and there are some bins right next to you. So it would be much more sense to just put it a few meters away where people actually want to sit. Okay, but enough about that bench. I'm pretty sure I saw Councillor Ashton's hand up a minute ago, but apparently I think he's. Councillor Ashton, did you want to say something?
Yes, Chair. It was just on the recycling at Waitrose. All the supermarkets are struggling now with a mess being made by people not recycling properly, and Sainsbury's on Coldham's Lane have moved all their bins away as well. And that was in an area where there was plenty of space for recycling, and they had at least probably 15 bins for various things. But because people abused them in an unbelievable way, Sainsbury's had taken the decision to stop recycling. So it's one of these things that if people actually can't use them properly, then the supermarkets obviously go, we're not paying to keep cleaning them up all the time. So it is a sad state of affairs, really, when we try and get people to recycle, and yet people won't use them properly. So, yeah, the only way we can do it better is like when we do the clean-up days in our wards, what have you. We recently had one in Cherry Hinton. I know you have them in Trumpington. So I think it's a case of maybe either try and do more of them on a regular basis to get people to get the rubbish put in the right places, because we've got the people there to ensure it is chipped in the right skips. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Yeah, is there any more on this item? I mean, I actually just have two quick questions. And that is, one is on the table, I think it's page 32, the environmental and waste data. I just noticed that from June 22 to June, November 22 and June, November 23, fly tipping went up by even a half in Cherry Hinton, and it went down in Trumpington quite considerably, let's say by a third maybe. I just wonder whether big changes like that, it's just what it is. It's noisy data, or do people from Trumpington dump all their stuff in Cherry Hinton now, or is there any explanation for something like that? I'm just curious about what these data really mean. How we can interpret them.
Thank you, Chair. So I think it's very difficult to interpret just as figures as it is, because you're looking at where the hotspots are, what the type of waste is, the size of the waste. I mean, when you compare to June to November in 2022, that was before we had changed the enforcement team structure. So you've now got 2 officers covering the south area as opposed to 1 person. We have also changed the way that the fly tipping is investigated. It all goes straight to the enforcement team for triaging to look at what has evidence in it, rather than just clearing stuff straight away. So there are changes to methodology, and that may well be one of the reasons why figures have gone up and down. I think, like I highlighted in Cherry Hinton, there are some sort of hotspot areas where we've had some problems in the past couple of months that we're dealing with. Trumpington, there was a significant problem at Glebe Farm Drive, which is still a problem, but it's not as wide scale as it was. We'd like to attribute that to the sort of the action of the enforcement team by being able to give out the fixed penalties, because you'll see for both wards, or actually all wards, the fixed penalty numbers, they've increased from 8 in sort of 2022 to 39 in 2023. For a variety of different reasons. So maybe it's a combination of changing methodology plus also the message getting out about fly tipping. I'm not aware of people from Trumpington generally travelling up to Cherry Hinton to dump their waste. So I don't think that's the problem.
Unless we are telling them to, yeah.
Yeah. So I think, yeah, it's kind of maybe a bit of everything, really.
Okay, thank you. And another quick one. I mean, page 34, the table. I should probably know this, but just to see how to interpret these data. Does it mean, I mean, the amount collected for disposal is over 50%. I mean, let's say 50%. And then the recycling rate is 35 for compost and 20% for dry recycling. Does that mean a lot of the stuff that's collected is not recycled? Is that what these data mean? So if 50% is collected, but only 20 or 30% are recycled, that means there's a discrepancy there.
Yes, Chair. So the dry recycling is your blue bin, the composting is your green bin, and the amount collected for disposal is basically your black bin waste. So it will break it down, and obviously across, when you look at a full year's figures, you will see fluctuations like the green bin seasons, for example, depending on if it's growing season. That's, you know, sort of spring, it is much more green waste than you might see in the sort of the winter period, for obvious reasons. So it is pretty much telling you what you sort of you see is kind of the figures you're looking at.
Okay, I'm still thinking, I mean, should they add up to 100%, or is it okay? Because it's sort of the 100% collected, it's basically black bin, green bin, blue bin.
Yeah, I think there's a typo in the April-June figure. The July-September figure, it appears to be 100%, but the other one looks like there's a slight typo. So I think that's probably a mistake on my part. But it should add up to 100%. Yes. Yes.
Okay. Now I see what. Okay. Great. Yeah. Oh, Councillor Snetter.
Yeah, I'm not really very happy just to let this go, that these reports, which are so important to people in terms of what they notice, you know, the things all around them and what they could do about it if they have got the energy. Obviously, I'm not, you know, no time for the fly tippers, and we're not really able to cater for them. But this, you know, the fact that these reports are not going to happen at all, or I rather assume they were going to a parent committee of some sort. And now I'm not trying to give you work, Wendy, but that sort of material and those sort of stories are so valuable. You know, they would make really good social media or postings of various sorts on the website that we could point people to. I would be so sorry not to see anything like it ever again. So just a protest. I think we've only got Councillor Ashton here who could in any way answer for the administration at the City Council. But can I put a plea in whether you're right on my behalf, Olaf? But it's a loss.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with that. So I would hope that whatever comes up in the future, I mean, will include reports like that. I mean, okay, Councillor Young, apparently on this topic.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I'm a member of the governance review group, together with Councillor Tim Bick for the Lib Dems, and there's a broad spectrum of Labour councillors on there as well, and the Greens. And this topic of what we do with the things that come to this South Area Committee is under review. So, Philippa, I'd just like to say no one really knows yet what's going to happen and how it's going to be treated, but you know, don't lose hope. So you just watch this space is basically the message. And apologies, my internet connection is dreadful at the moment, so hence I've turned the camera off.
Thank you. It was good to be able to hear that encouragement, but these are good news stories. Let's not lose.
And I hope that one way or the other, both residents and councillors will be asked of what they actually need, you know, and expect, just like reports like that. Okay, I mean, are there any more questions or comments? Or Wendy, is there anything that you would like to say just to finish it off? Or okay, well, thank you very much, Wendy. That was great. And we can move on to the, I think, is that the final item? I think it is, of the agenda. And that is the environmental improvement program and the projects that have been submitted. And we are joined, I think, by James Ogle, the projects officer, and John Richards, the public realm engineering and project delivery team leader. Hello, James and John.
Good evening.
Okay, have you decided who's going to present the the report on.
Yeah, me for my sins. Anyway, hello everybody. I'll try and keep this introduction short so you have a bit more time to discuss the potential South Area programme, if you so wish. EIP has been running for a number of years since 2004, and during this time has been subject to lots of different reviews to ensure the programme continues basically to meet the council priorities and to improve it as well. As a consequence of these reviews, it's been adapted quite a few times over the years. There are now two forms of EIP funding, local area and strategic. Tonight, obviously, we'll be concentrating on the local area funding for South. You're probably aware we ran an EIP funding round last year after a few years pause where we basically had to concentrate on other things. This year we ran an open application process which started on the 28th of June and closed on the 17th of August. There was a public opportunity also following that to select any ideas put forward and like or comment on them. This ran until the end of September. In the report, the committee is asked to do three things. Note the funding available, which is 23,329, to consider the new EIP ideas and projects submitted against the EIP funding availability and the eligibility criteria, then to consider the recommendations made in tables 1 and 2 in Appendix B, discuss and ask for clarifications and then any questions. Ideally, the committee needs to, by the end of the item, give a kind of clear recommendation and priorities in line with the available area EIP funding, so we can obviously discuss that with the Executive Councillor. Table 1, which is obviously just talked about in the Appendix B, summarises the project, the idea submission information, and describes the project, the estimated cost, the location, the persons in support, negative comments received, and officer rating and recommendation. 9 projects were put forward in South with an estimated cost of 37,350. We as officers are recommending 5 of those 9 projects, which come to, I think they come to 23,350, which is a little bit more than the budget, but it's only, I don't know, £21. So I think we can allow that. This year we have hopefully made it easier for committee discussion as there are outlined officer recommendations within table 2. The recommendation in the report and that of the committees will be shared with the Executive Councillor, Sam Carlin. He will listen to the discussion recording of this meeting if required. He will then look and approve the South Area EIP and the other area funding programmes and the strategic EIP funding in December, which will then be taken to the Environment and Scrutiny Committee as a record of decision in January, and then we can look at, starting to deliver and resourcing to project officers. Please also note the strategic projects in table 4. But that's it really. I suppose it's now up to the committee's opportunity to discuss and consider if there are any more projects within the bids received that they feel should be come above or should be different from the recommendations of the officers. John and I are happy to take any questions, so leave it over to you.
Thank you very much, James. Are there any questions? Councillor Young?
Sorry, that's an old hand. Beg your pardon.
Okay. Well, but in that case, it's Councillor Slater's. And then, yeah, Councillor Ashton, I can see you. I think Councillor Slater was quicker.
Yes, S7, was it James who was talking? Yes. Right. And I would certainly support helping the community garden. It's been an amazing effort by the volunteers. The amount of money available or even the involvement of the developers has been so unpredictable, very frustrating and stressful. So we must pick up, take up the slack on that one, because there's no doubt it is valued by the local community. And I would love to be able to sit there by the pond or wherever they think I should sit. My point is simply, basically, we do what the volunteers say, because they're the ones who are out there in all weathers. Not sure how S6 happened, James, because you and I were both of 8. both watching them putting the picnic benches in last year. So
Yeah.
I think that must have been an error somehow to have that as a carryover. But I don't suppose it made any difference to your eventual decisions. The strategic ones, I do like the look of the Happy Bees one. And I think the detailed encouragement of biodiversity, there's a lot of talk now about the underground, is it mycelium things, the fungal underground biodiversity, and the ways in which we can help, even in very small places, to improve that. Now, what I did want to ask on, this is City 4, page, where are we, 14? Does that apply to places in private ownership, little mini bits? And does it apply to allotment land, which is obviously in city council ownership, but may not be part of what you were thinking of?
It's actually City 4, isn't it? Which is Happy Bee Streets and biodiversity. It's more in streets than anything. Actually, we're not recommending that at the moment. They've actually found some budget within the kind of service to cover that. So they will be working with residents who want to encourage biodiversity in their street, and investing in that and spending money on, I don't know, improving verges or any kind of green spaces. But I mean, it could happen for allotments as well, I suppose, if allotments are interested. It's whether that's a street, but
well,
it's a question.
No, fair enough. I think it probably is, the answer is no on that one, and we can ask John Parrott. But the fact it's streets did catch my eye, because obviously the county has got biodiversity interests and a recognition that you can do quite a lot with one stretch of hedge, but the other one you have to cut back because it's actually a cycle path. So those the fact that the community engagement team put it up makes me wonder whether some work has been done that we should capture and carry forward in whatever way, maybe not under this particular heading, James.
Well, certainly there is money within, I think, revenue budgets to actually support Happy Bee Streets, so they will be taken forward.
Great, look out for that. Thank you.
Okay.
Even if the streets are owned by the county council, I'm sure we can work that out.
Oh, yeah. We tend to maintain a lot of the verges anyway as a city. So if it's private land, it may be more of an issue. So it's certainly on public land they would look at the well, actually Wendy's team. Okay,
thank you. I mean, Councillor Ashton had a question, but his video is frozen for me. I don't know if he can talk to us at least.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Now you're moving as well. Great.
Right. Okay. Yeah. It's just an observation to say the EIPs are an amazing opportunity to make these improvements, but the actual implementation, the policy, the officer time taken to do it all, going through how many are submitted, is absolutely devastating time that's taken. And other authorities make an allowance for councillors of up to £5,000 a councillor. I wonder, and I've mentioned this before, could we not look as a council at making an allowance for each councillor for EIPs? That way round, you would speed things up. It will be targeted directly where it needs to be done. And if it was too expensive, you could have the rollover 1 year of saying, I'm saving my budget to roll it over next year to do what we needed. That way round, you'd be implementing exactly what's needed in your wards, quickly, fastly, efficiently. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Ashton. Any comment on that? I mean, sounds like a good suggestion. But otherwise, Councillor Levine, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Really, what I was about to say has been half answered. I was just going to point out, this is really for Councillor Slatter's information rather than all of us, but I noticed that there is an oral question going in for the council meeting on Thursday from Councillor Thornborough on the street furniture for the community garden. I might put a similar question in myself, in the hope that 2 cracks at it is better than 1. of actually being chosen. So that's S7 2024. If you look on page, when it's on the page 12 of the A3 sheets. Thanks.
I mean, Mr. or John, would you like to respond to?
Thank you, Chair. It was actually a response to Councillor Ashton's question, Chair, rather than Councillor Levine's. Just to add that Councillor Ashton's suggestion about allocating EIP funding directly to councillors to put forward suggestions, that was considered during a previous review of operating processes for EIP and effectiveness, probably back in 2017-18, and discussed with the then executive councillor for streets and open spaces. I believe it was Karina O'Reilly at the time, and it was determined to continue with the arrangement, which has largely remained fairly unchanged since. So just a response to Councillor Ashton that point was considered, but the executive councillor elected to carry on as we currently invite bids through the process that we operate. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, James. And yeah, you have to unmute yourself.
Yeah, mine's a response to Councillor Levin. Yes, actually S7, which is the community development opportunities at Clay Farm Community Garden, we're actually suggesting that for approval, which was mainly for benches. So unless this committee is strongly against that, it is likely it's going to get funded. So there we go.
Yeah, that's great.
I would just, yet again, I would say, as long as this is informed by what the group of volunteers want and think is feasible. They've laboured long and hard over many years.
We'll
and I just
find out who to ask.
It should be promoted. You know, ideally have somebody there for the council, but that's where the details should lie, really.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Great.
I'm not one of them, by the way. I'm just speaking on their behalf.
Yeah, I don't know who
we
to
just
contact.
see them all see them almost every day, busy working, and we don't want to waste money on stuff that isn't useful.
That I don't want. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Are there any more comments or questions? So if not, then I think we can thank John and James and close this item. Thank you very much. And I think it's then time to get the violence out, or not, and get a bit sad together. This is the last minute of the South Area Committee meetings. I mean, who knows what's coming next? I mean, hopefully something even better. But for now, that's all, folks. Yeah. And well, I mean, I guess we'll see each other on other occasions. I mean, any final words?
Well, let's go hybrid.
Okay.
Thank you, Olaf, for all the organising. Great
In
job.
that case, thank you. In that case, I think we can close the meeting and go offline again.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.